last time the Penn State football team played a game without James Franklin on its sideline was 4,327 days ago. That streak will come to an end as Penn State heads to Kinnick Stadium. Welcome to the Straight From The Kres podcast.
Welcome to the Straight From The Kres podcast.
Welcome back into the Straight From The Kres podcast. I'm your host, Michael David Kreswich. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 8 of the Straight From The Kres podcast. On today's episode, we'll talk about Penn State's loss to Northwestern and preview the game against the Iowa Hawkeyes this Saturday night in Kinnick Stadium as the Nittany Lions hit the road after suffering back-to-back losses. First, I'd like to welcome in my gracious hosts, Justin Beck and Garrett Bastardi. Garrett joined us for the emergency podcast, but it was his bye week. And Garrett, let's talk other football now. How was your football experience outside of Penn State this past weekend?
Yeah, thanks, Mikey. Was out in Lubbock. For those who don't know, my wife played soccer at Texas Tech and had an awesome experience. Second time out there to see a game. You give a lot of money to a bunch of oil people and people out in West Texas. They know how to use it, and so unbelievable facilities across the board. Unbelievable recruiting class coming in. They have a great transfer portal there now. Transfer portal class there now. Just a blueprint of how to use a lot of donor money in the right way. So it was an awesome experience, a very good football team, an exciting football team to watch. Not really sure if I'd say Texas Tech is a legitimate title contender. I do think they're a legitimate top 10 team in the country. And that was not the case, 2-3 years ago. They've hit the portal in the right way. They have a coach who could either of you name Texas Tech's football coach?
Cliff Kingsbury.
Back.
I got nothing. Sorry.
No good. Joey McGuire. All right. Joey McGuire is like a Texas football staple, a motivator, like admittedly not a like massive X's and O's guy. He knows how to get the locker room right. And so I think in today's football, he also has the ability to recruit and utilize the finances and the backing that they have. So maybe a preview into what we're going to go towards where, if you can just get the right guy who can manage this NIL era the right way, you could do some good things. So Texas Tech is probably a look into the future for a lot of teams who are kind of, not necessarily a perennial power. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the Texas Aggies, beat Florida at home. And they are on the spectrum that I think Penn State is closer to, a little bit more of a blue blood, a little bit more of a broader financial backing, and will not stop until they get to the top. When it comes to all the money that's poured in, you can't really settle for anything short of winning. So a lot of interesting things going on across the country, aside from obviously all the drama we have going on back home. But was a fun weekend, and again, what you can do with resources and finances is a lot. And so hopefully those continue to pour in for Penn State as we march on with this coaching search and a new era for the football team.
Justin, you had a pretty exciting weekend. Wedding Saturday, Steelers win Sunday.
Yeah. It was a good weekend. I didn't actually have to watch the Nittany Lions lose because I was at a reception. I did check the score on my phone and got increasingly disappointed as the evening went on. But, there was something to take my mind off of it right after. So, Bobby, if you're watching, and Amanda, congratulations. It was a great wedding. I was happy to be there. And, yeah, I'm ready to talk some football.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties there. So let's just get to it. Obviously, just a brutal loss for Penn State, 22-21 at the hands of Northwestern. Back-to-back 20-point losses as a favorite, the first time in 30 years that's happened across college football. And the only bright spot that I saw from the game, which was the only kind of you can walk away with this, Devontae Ross is legit. It was the first time all season he eclipsed 100 yards. He really showed, outside of the fumble he had, he was the first Nittany Lion to do that this season. Or I'm sorry, that was the first time he did it in Nittany Lion uniform. He did it 5 times last year at Troy. But outside of that, Penn State's 3-3 now. Just after 3 wins to subpar teams, they fall. And oh, how the mighty has fallen. Penn State they were one stop away a month ago against Oregon from potentially being definitely being the number 2 team in the country. And now they've lost its quarterback and coach. Garrett, your main takeaways from this loss, what it means going forward for Penn State.
Yeah, just, defense can't get off the field. The offense can't conjure up enough. There's a lot of blame to go around everywhere. I do think in years past, the defense probably is organized enough to overcome the offensive issues that were had the last couple of weeks to have this team be 5-1, and we're probably in a completely different position. A lot of things can call into question. Clearly the team cannot figure out how to play Jim Knowles' defense right now. And we're hearing that more and more. I also start to wonder, there was a decent amount of confidence in the offense coming into the season from just offseason reports on how they looked in practice. I just wonder if that was because the defense wasn't really showing up efficiently in practice. And so it was interesting in Coach Franklin's preseason press conference. It might have been in the middle of fall practice. He thought the offense looked good. He thought special teams looked good, and he said the defense still had a ways to go. It was kind of a harbinger of things to come, where the defense was a little bit of clearly buoyed by 3 weak opponents the first 3 weeks, and then probably played the best they could possibly play as is against Oregon. And even so, really could not get a stop late when you needed to get it. And that's been the pattern here the last, really since the last, late in the quarter and overtime against Oregon until now. Just the defense cannot get stops. Needed to get a stop against Northwestern, could not do it. Just nothing really to really hang your hat on. In playing a lot of golf, the hardest thing out there is knowing that I have, if I have one part of my game, if I have putting, I can rely on, it's all right, no matter what, I'm going to make some putts, or my driver is working that day. If no phases of your game are something that you can hang on to or hang your hat on, it gets hard to win games. And right now, Penn State really has nothing to really latch onto. Even special teams, while they've made plays, the most crucial play in the Northwestern game was muffing that punt. And so that becomes really tough. Usually in Penn State, football history, you could say, well, at least the defense is going to show up. I don't know if the defense is going to show up in these games right now. And that's tough considering you just went out and spent $3 million on a new defensive coordinator. So, I have no idea what to expect going to this weekend, given what I've watched the last couple weekends.
Beck, you obviously were box score watching during it. I'm sure you saw the highlights. Your main takeaways from this game?
Yeah, main takeaways from the game, I think, and I did touch on it in the previous show we had, but I think so much college football is belief and what you're playing for. And I think that really just got sucked out of the team against Oregon. It's not the NFL where these players have incentives that they're still playing for, and there's a wild card spot open. The season pretty much died with UCLA. And I think the UCLA loss you can attribute to probably an emotional letdown off of Oregon. But when you lose those 2 games, I think the writing's on the wall. The team probably at that point was seeing that there was nothing they could do that was going to make the season turn out the way that they hoped it would. And I think that just takes the winds out of the sails for the whole team. Needing the stop and not getting it, it's frustrating. But to say 22 points, it's not like the defense played atrociously. And a lot of 7 of those are off of, maybe it was just 3 because Devontae Ross muffs that punt on the 5-yard line. All right, so how many of those points? I don't actually remember if it was a field goal or a touchdown that they scored off of that, so my bad. But you take some of those points are attributed directly to that play. The defense hasn't lived up to expectations, but I don't know how you put that game on the defense. I feel like the offense has to be able to score more than 21 against Northwestern. And I'm interested to see what it's going to look like with Gronk at the helm now. I don't know. We will see in time, but
yeah, it was pretty symbolic. The last time Northwestern defeated Penn State was James Franklin's first year as head coach, and of course, James Franklin's final game with the Nittany Lions is the 1-point loss there. But just a sloppy game all around. I believe they had 6 penalties in the first half. They didn't really win any of the key stats that we point to in terms of time of possession, yardage. They were outgained. Penn State was outgained 292 to 274. They lost the turnover battle, turnover possession battle. Penn State had 4 drives in the second half when the game was on the line. It was touchdown, punt, turnover on downs. You're not getting great execution, and we've kind of pivoted the way we talked about this team right after, I would say, the Oregon game. Of course, their first loss. Obviously, it's going to be symbolic to what they're doing and what we're talking about. But each week we're talking about perform the best, stay healthy, move on. Right now, it's talking about what's wrong with this team, and it's at all 3 levels on the defense. They're not getting any pass rush. Their linebackers can't tackle, and we saw some lapses in coverage, and we saw AJ Harris get pulled. I mean, they were playing everybody and their brother in that game, and you could kind of tell they were trying to switch something up, but it didn't seem to me the personnel changes there. So that's where we're at. Penn State is 3-3 with just a demoralizing, gut-wrenching, heart-thrashing loss there. But they've got to play some football this weekend. And they hit the road to go to Iowa, a very hostile environment, to play the Hawkeyes, who are 4-2 on the season, with a 3-point loss to Iowa State and a 5-point loss to Indiana. They're coming off a shutoff win, a 37-0 win against Wisconsin last week. They've allowed 20 or more points just 2 or more times this season. Those happen to be in both, one loss, and they gave up 28 to Rutgers. Senior Mark Gronowski, I apologize. Another South Dakota State transfer. We saw Mark Wild from Northwestern torch us last week, but we have Gronowski now who won back-to-back titles at North Dakota State. The senior's completing 65% of his passes. He has 3 touchdowns through the air, 8 on the ground, 3 interceptions, 743 yards. 6 Hawkeyes have carried the ball 25-plus times this year. Kamari Moulton leads the team with 261 yards. Gronowski has a team-high 8 touchdowns, and Xavier Williamson, the true freshman, leads all those 6 with 25-plus carries with 7.3 yards per pop. The receiving tight end overview, Sam Phillips leads with 193 yards in receiving yards. Jacob Gill has a team-high 12 catches, and Seth Anderson is the lone Hawkeye with multiple receiving touchdowns. They took a huge injury hurting. Yeah, their team was struck by injury. Addison Ostrange, the tight end, blew out his Achilles against Iowa State. He's just part of that tight end fraternity that Iowa seems to produce. So Penn State's lucky. That's a playmaker they don't have to worry about. Obviously, wishes to him and his recovery. Pretty interesting. Iowa and Kirk Ferentz always pride themselves in special teams play. Their kicker, they got a good one in Drew Stevenson. He's 12 of 15 on the year, but he's 3 for 3 outside of 50 plus, but he's just 2 of 4 inside of 40 and 49. So if Penn State can keep him in that range and not let him kick deep, that might help out. On the defensive side of the ball, fast, physical, violent player Carson Shaw is a demon at linebacker. He leads the team with 36 total tackles, as well as Max Lowan leads the team with 4 sacks, and 4 Hawkeyes have 1 interception. No one has 2 on the team, and that's pretty much the run of Iowa and who they are from a personnel standpoint. They returned 7 starters on offense, 5 on defense. 3 starters come back on their offensive line there, and obviously we talk about Kirk Ferentz a lot. He's the longest tenured coach in college football right now in FBS Division I. So I'll go to Garrett here. Garrett, when you think of this Iowa team, what comes to mind?
Yeah, tough, hard-nosed. No matter where they're at, you never look at it. Even if we were 6-0 to this point, you always look at this game as dangerous. And so even more so now, it truly is a toss-up, I guess, just based on how they've played and how we've played. And so, just from a talent perspective, we always have a little bit more talent, but a couple stats I think are important going into this game that need to be flipped if Penn State is going to have a chance. And I think it's going to be very tough with Grunk as the first time starting quarterback going into this environment. They will try to kick us while we're down for sure. There's going to be no pulled punches from the Hawkeyes and their fan base. But the time of possession number, Iowa's top 20 in the country, a little over 32 minutes a game. Penn State is close to dead last in the country. They are last in the Big Ten, almost last in the country in time of possession. If Iowa's going to have the ball for 32 minutes, 33 minutes, this is going to go exactly the same way as the last 3 games have gone. And so I think a massive, part of that equation is Kaytron Allen carrying the ball for 20 plus times Saturday night. If they're going to continue to try to just do this same, split the difference and let both carry, Penn State's 5-1 if Kaytron Allen's averaging 20 carries a game right now. And it's just wild to think that. And I cannot understand, other than maybe NIL purposes, why that's going on. But for Penn State, again? What's that?
Penn State's 5-1 when.
No, I'm saying Penn State's at least 5-1 if Kaytron Allen's carrying the ball 20 times a game. I'm just saying they win the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. I'm saying in an alternate universe, if he's not only averaging the same amount of carries as Nick Singleton is, I can't foresee them losing either of those games. We just don't control the ball, don't control the possession battle. And so, like you said, Mikey, the offense isn't playing very good. The defense, to push back a little bit on Beck, I don't think you can blame the defense. It has been 3 straight games in a row when the defense absolutely needed a stop. They cannot get it. And that is a Jim Knowles staple. The same thing happened 4 years in a row with Ohio State playing Michigan. So all that to say, I'm not blaming the defense. We need to see something change on offense. And I think the key is changing this stubbornness, this hard-headedness of we are going to split the carries to Kaytron Allen is going until he can't go anymore. And we'll see. He's averaging nearly 7 yards a carry. He runs it 20 times. If he has a game near 150 yards on the ground, Penn State has a chance to win the game.
Justin, we're going to see a new quarterback for Penn State playing in a meaningful game for the first time in 3 seasons. That is Ethan Grunkmeyer getting his first career start in a tough Kinnick crowd against a very physical defense. What's your expectations for Ethan in this game? Or I apologize, Ethan Grunkmeyer. We had a subscriber talk about we can't call these guys by our first names. So Ethan Grunkmeyer.
Okay, so Ethan Grunkmeyer, I would expect, and it would be just negligence on Kotelnicki's part if what Garrett said is not true. Do not put this game on Ethan Grunkmeyer. Garrett, I'm referring to give the ball to Kaytron 20 times. That needs to happen, right? You cannot ask Grunkmeyer or Ethan Grunkmeyer to sit back and throw the ball all over the place. I would hope that we at least try and protect him, but at the same time, I do want to see if he can be the quarterback of the future, because in today's college football era, we could just buy a mercenary quarterback next year like Oklahoma did with John Mateer. And I know Mateer got hurt, but he looked amazing up until that point. So try and ease him into the game. Don't put the game entirely on his shoulders. We want to see what he's capable of, especially for looking into the future. But you can't ask him to throw the ball 40 times against Iowa. The game has to be played in a controlled manner. We have to control the time of possession, like Garrett said. I would like to lean on the run game, and that means Kaytron Allen. It means relying on an offensive line that, again, what we thought going into this year was going to be one of the strengths of the team, if not one of the strengths of the team given. We thought it was going to be one of the best units in all of college football. There were expectations for this offensive line that just have not been met. And so maybe giving the ball to Kaytron more will actually highlight that offensive line. And they're going to need to step up in protecting Grunkmeyer as well, because you can't – there's going to be a lot of nerves in this game. You're going into Kinnick Stadium at night. Spooky things happen there. Keep him clean. Do not put too much on him too fast, but ultimately we're going to have to see what he's capable of.
Yeah, for the first time all year, we're talking about spooky season, and this is the start of spooky season this weekend, I would officially say, Garrett. But 7 p.m. kick on Peacock, the 33rd all-time meeting between the two. Penn State leads the series 18-14 all-time, and Penn State is 10-6 when they play on the road against Iowa. We talked about it earlier, just briefly. The last time these two teams met was 2023. Drew threw for 4 touchdowns. The defense held Iowa to 76 yards and just 4 first downs in that whiteout game. Harry Smith, interim coach Smith, set to coach his first game as Penn State's head coach, the 1991 graduate, 12th year with the Nittany Lions as part of the staff. started as a quarterbacks coach, was promoted later to associate head coach, and now he is interim head coach. So it's the Terry Smith era for now has begun at Penn State, and we don't know. This is a talk for a different time, but we don't know what we're getting out of him. Obviously, it's a guy who everyone's going to rally around, and as fans, we should give him nothing but respect and support as a Penn State guy, and just for what he's dealing with right now. Obviously, he said this week the locker room's not in good shape, which of course I don't know how it could be in. So with that being said, Penn State goes into the game a slight underdog. I'm seeing around 3.5 points. They were originally favorited. Each of the last 2 games, the home teams won and covered this game. The last 10 years, Iowa is 28, 27, and 3 against the spread as a Big Ten home favorite. But the last 3 years, with a spread less than 3, Iowa is 12, 3, and 1. So they've done pretty well in this scenario, in this situation here with the point spread. New quarterback coming in, new head coach coming in. I'll go to Garrett first. Garrett, give me your game prediction, first touchdown.
Iowa is one of the worst passing teams in the country. I do think they'll be efficient enough offensively to keep the ball away. I think there will be very little in the way of throwing the ball for Penn State. With that said, I'm going to bank on them, on Penn State, and Coach Smith saying, going off of his mentality last week of like, okay, I'm going to pull AJ Harris if he doesn't want to be out on the field or if he's not doing a good job. I think he's going to tell Kotelnicki, he's going to tell whoever, like, we're playing Katron Allen until he doesn't want to play anymore. And so a nauseating statistic is Katron is 19th in the country in yards per carry. And it's mind-boggling that he hasn't gotten more. I think he carries it 20 plus times. I think Penn State wins like 20-14.
Wow. Okay. Justin, over to you. Do you have Penn State winning this game?
Yeah, this is going to be the first time in my appearances on the Straight From The Kres podcast that I am going to pick against the Nittany Lions, and it breaks my heart to do so. I hope I'm wrong, right? I want to be wrong. I hope Terry Smith can get this team motivated, and we see a team out there that really wants to play. And, sometimes when a head coach gets fired, that can galvanize a team and that can make the team play harder. I don't think that's the situation here.
I do agree with that.
I don't think that this team feels like Franklin held them back. If anything, and I'm not there, I would imagine that there is a little bit of guilt that these players feel and that they feel like they let him down, because he is loved by the players and he's loved by former players. So with that said, I am going to pick the Hawkeyes. I want to be wrong. I want this team to come out and look like they're ready to play, but I got the Hawkeyes like 27 to maybe 14. I don't think it's that close.
Yeah, it's a lot of firsts for the podcast here, because there's never been a time where me and Justin have both picked against. I picked against Penn State, but when I pick against Penn State, Garrett's never taken Penn State. Usually we're synonymous with our answers.
I think they're weird.
I'm going Iowa here. I think this is a tough spot for Ethan Grunkmeyer to be in, going on the road, and I think Iowa is just too much for this Penn State team to handle. Now, I think if there was a Tony Rojas in this game to spy Gronowski, I think that would be a different – I might maybe lean in a different way. But I have this 27-10. I think the offense struggles very badly, especially early on. Maybe find some rhythm late in the game, but I think Iowa's just too much right now for where the Penn State team's at as a program. The best thing is the bye next week that I'm very much looking forward to for both the team and everyone inside that football building. I think that bye couldn't have came at a better time, especially because you got to go to Columbus the next week. So just to recap here for everyone, Garrett has the Nittany Lions winning. Me and Justin do not. We will be back next week for our bye week recap to do our Q2. As you remember, during our bye week, we did the Q1 review. We're going to do the Q2 review next week. And then the following week will be a live show. Well, 2 of us will be there in Columbus, Ohio for Penn State, Ohio State. So we will be doing it right outside the shoe. So that's something we're going to look forward to there. But appreciate you guys sticking with us. Thanks for 100 subscribers. That's big. We're going to get up there. So thank you guys.